Every time I hear something about Netflix's live-action Avatar show that's coming out in a couple weeks, it is rarely good, and recently they have just been coming out with more and more bad news about it that I am slowly losing faith in the show. So if you haven't heard by now, which I'm sure you have, Netflix is making a complete live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, except it's not going to be in movie form, which is what M. Night Shyamalan did back in 2010. It's going to be its own full-on show. And I'm not gonna lie, when those first couple trailers dropped, I got really freaking hyped as well as everyone else. Everything aesthetic wise was just nailed down perfectly. The costumes, the set design, the fight scenes, the bending, the locations. It was all done so well and it just looks amazing from a visual standpoint. But from a writing standpoint, it is not looking good as they are making some very bad changes. For starters, Sokka is no longer going to be sexist, according to a tweet from Variety which says, Netflix's live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series is toning down the sexism. We took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there were a lot of moments in the original show that were iffy, says Kiyoantio Katara. I most definitely butchered the pronunciation of her name and I apologize for that. Yeah, totally, adds Ian Osley Sokka. I most definitely butchered that too and I am sorry. There are things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action. Now this may not seem like a huge deal, in fact this may seem like a positive thing to those who haven't watched the show, but to those who have, this is a major part of his character development. At the start of the show, Sokka is very sexist. He's basically the embodiment of women belong in the kitchen. He believes that they constantly screw things up and they're just made to cook, clean, and be nurses and all of that. But then in season 1 episode 4, he meets the Kyoshi warriors, which are a group of girls that can fight. And in this episode, he actually gets humbled by the leader of the Kyoshi warriors, whose name is Suki. And after this experience, Sokka's like, oh shoot, women don't belong in the kitchen. They can actually go out and fight and are just as capable as men. And it's after this that Sokka humbles himself and wants to learn from the Kyoshi warriors, and he begins to overcome his sexist beliefs and change and grow as a person, and he eventually becomes the man that we see in season 3. So the writers are basically taking away a huge part of Sokka's character arc, but that's not the only thing they're doing, as apparently Aang is not going to go on any of his adventures. According to a tweet from Discussing Film, they say, to make Avatar: The Last Airbender a serialized drama, Aang will not go on many detours looking for adventures like riding the elephant koi. We essentially give him this vision of what's going to happen and he says, I have to get to the Northern Water Tribe and stop this from happening. There is a lot of important character stuff in season 1, such as Sokka's character development, which starts with him meeting the Kyoshi warriors, which happens through one of Aang's random adventures. Specifically the one where Aang wants to ride the elephant koi, which is the one that they mention in the tweet wasn't going to happen. And I feel like by getting rid of a lot of Aang's adventures, they're missing the main point of season 1, or at least what I think is one of the main points of season 1. When the show starts, Aang is a 12-year-old child, and he spends a lot of season 1 going on random adventures, doing things he's always wanted to do, visiting old friends, specifically because he wants to avoid his responsibility as the Avatar. As it's expressed through his backstory, he never wanted to be it, and he eventually decides to ditch his responsibility and run away, and ends up getting trapped in ice for 100 years, which leads to the near extinction of the airbenders, which is Aang's biggest regret. And as the season goes on, he eventually accepts his responsibility as the Avatar and decides that he's going to go fulfill his destiny and save the world. Also too, by them taking out Aang's random adventures, it makes me wonder how they're going to meet key characters in the show, such as the Kyoshi warriors, Suki, Jed, etc. Because it is shown in the trailer that they do meet Suki and Jed, but it makes me wonder how they're going to meet them. Because the gang meets Suki, for example, through Aang wanting to ride the elephant koi, which I'm pretty sure was one of the adventures that they said wasn't going to happen. I don't know, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the show comes out. Another thing I want to bring up is that IGN actually made an article where they interview some of the people working on the show, and one of them said that they had to make it a serialized Netflix drama, which meant it couldn't just be for kids, it also had to appeal to the people who are big fans of Game of Thrones, and so it had to feel grounded and mature and adult in that way too. And to that I say, why the heck are they trying to appeal to Game of Thrones fans? Avatar: The Last Airbender already has mass appeal to anyone of any age. Obviously a lot of the fans are older because they grew up with the show, but that's one of the things that makes it so great, as well as a show that pretty much anyone of any age can get into. It's goofy and silly enough to where kids can enjoy it, but it's mature and dark enough to where adults can enjoy it too. And from what it sounds like, they are seriously pulling back a lot of the goofiness that the original cartoon had, which I feel like takes away one of the things that it did really well in my opinion. It managed to strike the perfect balance between goofiness and seriousness. It knew when to be fun and crack jokes and when to take itself seriously. Netflix Netflix is making so many bad writing decisions, it's honestly no wonder the creators of the original cartoon decided to leave the project. I honestly won't be surprised if at the end of the show, if it even gets to this point, that they have Aang actually kill Ozai instead of him just taking his bending away, since they want to make it a more serialized drama. And it really sucks to say all these bad things about this show, because I really was hyped for it and I had a lot of hope in it when I first saw the trailer, as did everyone else. But now that it's come out that all these terrible writing decisions are being made, I honestly have very little hope in this show. But I am still willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, as I genuinely do want to see it succeed. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe this show will be a faithful adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, or at the very least more faithful than M. Night Shyamalan's Abomination. And if that's the case, then I will make a video saying that the show is good, and I will personally apologize to Netflix, and I will admit that I was wrong. But if it's bad, which based off of everything I've talked about in this video, it looks like it's going to be pretty bad, I might make a video on it. I haven't decided if I will or not, but like always, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And that's going to do it for the video. Thank you for watching, and yeah, peace.